Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. We're here working on a calculator to support kilt makers. And yesterday we spent a lot of the day kind of lost in the weeds trying to make the knife pleat designer and the box pleat designer kind of work together. So I think today is going to be try again. We will do what we probably should have done 45 minutes or more into last session and revert. Okay, so where we are, I guess that's worth a quick peek. The challenge we have is that we have the tartan design is its own object, and our pleat design depends on it. So let's set the hip first. Okay, so the tartan design is up here. If I change this 6 to 6, I should get a 2-inch box pleat. Yeah, we're box pleat. Okay, so 6 inches here. Right, and this should be 2, and it was before we started working on all this. But the object that represents all the rest of this stuff needs to refer to at least the product of these two numbers. And we were trying to make it so that one observable object could look at another observable object and update based on it. And I think my conclusion is it's just really not the way Swift UI wants to work at this point. There are some mechanisms, and we were trying some of them. I don't know if we can, where's that designer? Yeah, so we tried this thing of trying to monitor this pleat fabric variable and detect the changes and reestablish variables and all this stuff. But the mechanisms just aren't quite stable. And it also changes our tests all over the place. We've got a lot of commented out tests at the moment, working one by one to detect the ones doing pleat fabric and modify the tartan instead of the designer. It's a valiant effort. I want it to work, but I just don't think the framework's going to help us. Maybe there's a pattern to do, but I think trying to work it out in the context of everything we have already is just not the right place. And maybe let me just add a future work item, not even in this project really, but figure out observable objects being observed by other observable objects. And the reason I think this is useful or important is, like, we started with this very big object that had all these fields in it, and then as we switched to sort of two designers, knife and box military, we wanted to pull out part of that and then have it as a common setting between the two. But I don't have a good way yet. Now, they're also changing observable around in the next upcoming release of Swift UI. So maybe I'll just leave this here. It's it's way down in the list right now. Okay. I mean, it would be a good thing. I've needed it before, and I think there's something proper about it. Like, I mean, this thing does depend on this shared object. You think they could coordinate that somehow? Maybe it means I'm being too state-based or something. I don't know, but we'll see. All right. Also, we're at the point of our tests are failing, even though we have so many of them commented out. Okay. But I'm just going to put it down to this path is not a good path for us. All right. I guess I'll let the to-do stay. Revert these. I hope this gets us back far enough. And revert these. Make sure the to-do is the only thing. Okay. All right, let's run tests. Okay, so we're back where we were design-wise. Well, that was the idea we had. Let's take that out. Let's take out the cancelable. Okay. Right. Now we have our own variable for it. Okay, and I think we'll also look at pleat view. Yeah, that's like it was. All right. Okay. All we did was remove some comments. And we'll make sure that that test or example works. Okay, so I'll start with 20 here. And then if I change that to 6, yep. Okay. Now, what I want to do about it is this is being done kind of in multiple places in the view. So the way this works is if the set field changes, then we update the designers. And if the sets per pleat changes, we update the designers. Now, I think with the way this works, okay, so that's tartan view. Well, I hate being coupled to these like this. It's like, this is the reason we want, bindings and all that stuff. So all right. Well, let's improve it and then we'll improve it. It's also set some variable on both designers. Yeah, I think the way we are now, I mean, for better or worse, it knows all the possible designers and updates them all, so they're all kind of coordinated to that set size. Because this is a relatively slow changing thing. Normally, you just the set is almost fixed. It's fixed by whatever tartan you pick, and then you make a decision about how many sets per pleat. Usually you kind of work with that. You might try one of the others or something, but it changes a lot less than going back and forth between number of pleats and all that stuff. Okay, so the change I'm going to do is I can move these up, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so let's do that. I'm moving them out to the top level class or the VStack, whatever we're going to call that, widget. I don't know. All right. So each of these changes, the slider or the validating text field, they'll manage their focus field, but on them I put this. All right. So let's make sure that works. And you can't test that from our unit tests right now. We don't have enough UI test capability to do that, and I've been rejecting it. Maybe wrongly, but yeah. The more of these kind of things I do, the more I think, maybe I should have those things. All right, so 6 inches gets updated there, and then it should be a 6-inch set here, but we default to 1 inch for the pleat. Okay, so that does work. All right, so that's kind of one good thing. Now, I do also have this idea that we can get down to one designer, and maybe that would be a better use at this point. I had another on change somewhere. On change of hip. Well, I think we... Right. Okay. So changing box pleat designer if we change box pleats hip, we're also going to update knife pleat and vice versa. Okay. Yeah, so what I'm thinking, well, okay, let's test and check this in. The designers observe. Well, that's kind of what I was trying to do yesterday. That they would know the tartan, because I think that's the right relationship. The tartan is independent of the pleat design, and the tartan doesn't care about the pleat design. So it's vice versa. The pleats do care about the tartan. So, or at least the pleat fabric amount, the product of the two fields. Yeah. So, I guess, so the thing you're saying is let it register them. Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of putting in a manual observer process, and okay. But I think if I fold this down to 1, I'll feel better about it. Let's see. So what I think we can do, where's the picker? So this picker chooses box or knife, and then other things depend on that, like this, and this, and this. Okay, that's pretty much it. All right, so what I want to do, or what I'm thinking anyway, one thing is we can make that control more so that everything is kind of controlled from that. All right, so this is selected pleat. This is selecting it. Yeah, so I think I can do this on change thing here. On change of selected pleat. Let's just print now selected pleat. Okay. Just kind of confirming, I guess you'd say it's a manual test of using on change on the picker. I don't know, that seems worse to me. Yeah. On change of, oh. Yeah, it's funny. The messages are really terrible when you leave out a parenthesis. Okay, oh, it's still a problem. Okay. Type cannot convert value of type pleat style to expect. Oh, I got to say value. Yeah, again, it's kind of a weird syntax problem. The message doesn't say, oh, on change must have one argument. That's what I'd like to know. Yeah, you missed a parenthesis and you have to have an argument. Okay. But, well, I guess we can look at selected pleat. Yeah, let's run this. If this doesn't print out the change as we click on those things, then I really don't know what I'm doing with this. Okay, so I don't get the initial one, but I think when I hit knife, I should see the word now knife. Oh yeah, okay, now box. All right, so this thing does capture it, and we can do things. Okay, so what I'm thinking to unify these things, let's see, can I... how do I want to do this? Well, what I was thinking was this would update the initial pleat value. Okay, in pleat designer, let's put that over here. Right now, we pass in the tartan. Oh, we're going to take that out shortly because we're not looking at it. All right. We pass in the tartan and we pass in the pleat designer initial width function. Right, this thing's designer to nothing to double is a function returning a function. All right, which we have the two choices down there. But my notion is that we could assign those in a method. Okay. Let's see. So, and then what I don't know is, do we need to do anything about it? And I think not. All right. So let's see. I guess I'm saying this is not needed. Tartan equals tartan. Okay, well, that's gonna go away. And then there should be some calls, initializers. Oh, no, there isn't, because we haven't called them yet, changed them yet. Okay, now I'm going to take this out. Should be some complaints. Probably a couple tests too. Box pleat and knife pleat. Okay. Oops, I commented something out in here. Okay, pleat fabric is an optional double get set. Okay. So, if I set this when I change, and I'm hoping this is a refactoring that works. It's definitely not an out-of-the-box one. All right, where's my picker? Okay, so I say what I would like to happen is the designer. Oh, I gotta be specific. Dot initial with. Well, I think I've got to do a case. Case dot box. Case dot knife. Well, actually, I don't think I do have to do a case. I think I can just do them. Oh, I have to do a case to get to them. All right. Well, an if. If selected pleat equals box, initial width, let initial width equals, equals, if it's box, then pleat designer dot box pleat, else pleat designer dot knife pleat. I'm gonna use one in the end, because I think the only difference is how do you create a new pleat? Well, the only time that kicks in is when you change either the sets per pleat, or the hip, and if you switch between them, I don't see any problem with, you just got the width you chose, and all that possible widths are based on the fabric you have anyway, so there's nothing going to be out of range about it. So I think we can move that way, but I'm keeping both alive for the moment. Okay, so I think when this happens, let's just run. Well, I did test first, but we'll run in a second. Okay, if I've done what I intend to do, right now, both these are going to reflect the object that's the type that's in practice. Okay, so we'll take 6 and 20. All right, we get the 2. If we switch it to knife, the 6 and 20 should be the same. He's still 1, but I don't require that. I'd be fine with 2. So, oops, 176 should be knife. Thank you. Okay, let's run it again. Okay, we got our 2 inches. Switch to knife pleat. It's 1 because that's the default value there. But I think we could just keep it. Just use box pleat designer. All right, now with any luck, I've got these things consistent. Okay, so again, I'm making sure test pass. Oops. Yeah. Okay, so make change in pleat type, update designer's initial width function. I don't know if we can use functions as tags. That'd be nice, but all right. So I think at this point, I could just use box pleat designer on every view. Tartan view doesn't care. Box pleat doesn't care. Knife pleat, I'm going to switch these to box pleat designer. I'm going to comment them because I just don't trust myself quite that much. But I promise no 45-minute diversions today. Okay, so box, please. I don't know if this is helpful or not. But at least we can see that we've got box pleat designer where we need it. Okay. Pleats, box pleat designer. Well, on change of that, we set the ideal hip. That's not going to hurt it. But we won't have to do it in the future case. Pleat type changes that, right? Initial width, okay. Selected pleat. Okay, so this one is going to be boxed. Okay, I think we're at the bottom enough, yes. Okay, so if I've done this correctly, everywhere that said by a knife pleat, well, I should almost be able to comment it out, right? I think there's one or two places that might, yeah. Box designer dealership changes. Okay, we don't need that notification. This case. Oh, I think I just pure missed this one. I think we can just take this whole case out. It's all going to fold away. I guess I better. Okay, so 6-inch set, 20-inch, 2-inch. All right, now I expect this to be 2-inch because it's the same fields and everything else. Okay, fabric is 60 inches. 10 times our set. Okay, 60. Right, if I change it back, well, let's adjust it. Let's make a 3-inch pleat. Okay, forces a new hip size of 7. If we switch back to military, we keep the 3 inches. He's not a great size because the gap's too big. Okay, 7 pleats of 6 6-inch set is 42. Okay. Yeah, so I think we've successfully done it. It's a slight change of behavior, I mean, I'll admit. So it's not even a pure refactoring as refactorings go from a, don't change your function point of view. But it is saying the underlying situation. Now, I'm on box pleat. If I change this to, well, let's change this to 21. All right. If you change the hip, it should reset the initial pleat width. Okay, so it basically tries to set it to 2, but it can't quite pull it off with 21. Let's make it 20 again. Okay, it resets it to 2. All right. Now over here, if I, well, 19. All right, he resets to 1. So we can see there's different behavior in the two cases only when the set or the hip changes. That's the only time initial width comes into play. All right. Now, okay, so let's check that in. So we've folded all uses of designer to box pleat designer. This changes behavior in that the two designers used to have separate width, etc., and now they're the same. All right, now let's clean up. Well, there's no need for notification now. Is that right? Yeah, or if you change the box pleat, we don't need to change pleat designer at all. Okay. This switch case doesn't apply because the two cases are basically identical now. Let's prove that. Take the on change out. Okay. So their designer, box pleat designer, everything else is the same. So there's no point in making a switch on this. I think that's distance. Okay. There's no, oh no, this one does matter. Okay, but this doesn't. Okay, so we're going to choose whether to use a box pleat or a knife pleat on that. Let's get the comments first. I modify a couple of things, but okay, that's not needed. Okay. All right, now let's unify, get rid of these switches where we can. Okay, so we don't need knife pleat. Well, let's get rid of this down here first. Okay, so pleats, we just do a pleat count view. Tartan view, fine. The picker, okay, yeah, now selected pleat, we did box pleat or knife pleat. We should compare those two. Okay, so, oh, they are different. Right, that actually is a legit difference because we got the two different drawing tools for two different cases. Okay. And then I'd like this. Yeah, I think this part, these two are the same. Box plate designer total fabric. Okay, so I can take this switch out. Okay, so when the picker changes, we change the initial width function to whatever the right pleat designer needs to be. And then when we're drawing it, we draw different things depending on which kind of pleat it is. And I don't think we get to escape that one. Okay, because if you recall, this one has all the gap stuff. Gap ratio, draw gap, gap label, gap message. Okay, this one does not. It just has the width, selected width and pixel. Oh, now can we pull this out? Validating text field width, box plate designer, pleat width, validator, pleat fabric, focused. That sounds like it's the same, right? Let's pull this up. So I'm going to delete it from the front of both box pleat and knife pleat and put it in front here. Well, if that's all that's left, there's really no need for a V-stack there either. I think we can, whoops. Oh, I've messed something up. And run. Okay, set of 6, hip of 20. 2, knife. Keeps the 2 inches, total fabric 60. Yeah, and then back. Okay. And now this name box plate designer can really just be pleat designer, or even designer. Okay, well, I think, I mean, run. I think we've done what I intended to there. Okay. I don't think I changed anything that should affect a test or execution. Okay. The other thing we did put in place though is this used to be not a published field, but just an expression that was the product of the two things. Well, I guess it checked the pleat fabric, but we did change it. So this is now a published field that will change when those two things change. So I think we can fold this case together here in pleat view. We've made sure that if tartan.pleat fabric changes, or if either of those two fields change, pleat fabric will change. So we can see the change here. Okay, so I'm simplifying what I need there. All right, so I don't think we could check this. Unit tests can't fail on this one. It's really a view thing. Okay. All right. 24 for variety. Okay. Knife pleat, 2 inches. Yep. Okay. I do think that drawing is kind of ugly, but that's not what we're checking here. All right. So a change in either of these two should change this. Yep. Okay. And yeah. Oh yeah, these don't have to change. Doesn't change the pleat width unless things really get crazy. Okay, so 7. I don't know if we can force it to. Oh, changing this does. Okay, it looks okay. All right, so this is make any update to tartan. Notify of changes to pleat fabric. Oh, and I guess I'm way behind on to do. Okay. Revert. We did that. Okay. Make sure initial width is set for knife pleats. Well, that kind of came as a side effect, but yes. But the real thing we did was fold both box and knife pleat into the same designer. Make sure initial width is set. Yes, we did. Okay, show dimension line on knife pleat. Yeah, we got to decide about that. Enforce physical limits. Okay, so I guess that question is if we say a width of 8. Okay, yeah, that's 6 is 5.9, 4.9. Oh, something may be wrong here. Is 5 inches too big? I don't understand why. You can just have a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch. Okay, so let's check that one. Knife pleat. Should we make a type for pleat types? Pleat validator knows. All right. Set 6. Oh, let's make this 1. I think I was. Oh yeah, anything bigger than 3/4 would have been bad. Okay. 5. Why is that 0 pleats? Oh, ideal hip 2. Okay, let's get to a reasonable number. All right. Yeah, if you have a 5-inch pleat and you only want 2 inches, you're in trouble. All right, so a 1, I guess I want 5 to be okay. I want 5.9 to be okay, but it changes the hip size. 6, yeah, that's too large. Okay, because then you have all your fabric is going into the pleat, so it's not a pleat. Okay. Ideal hip should never be 0. Yeah, neither of these should. I think this one, did we restrict it? Yeah. I think this range is 3 to 20, if I remember. Maybe it was 30. Yeah. Okay, but okay, so I guess this is check that are enforced. Yes. Okay, and your observation, ideal hip should never be 0, pleat count neither. Yeah, so I mean, if I delete it, it's nil, and everybody kind of takes it into account. If it's a 0, yeah, we get an N. Let's oh, it's interesting. And we do check it, but the adjusted hip size gets a problem. I guess number of pleats becomes 0 because result can't. Yeah, somebody's dividing by 0. Determined. So I think let's see, pleat designer and ideal hip. All right, so here we check those, but hip was adjusted. Didn't we have a needs required values? Yeah. Okay, so I think what we want to do, I think what we should do is if this is less than or equal to 0, I don't know if we can ever make it negative, but let's let's just say it's got to be greater than 0. And if it's not, we're going to treat that like we do for ideal hip nil. It's like we can't work with it. Okay. Change pleat width to a crazy value. They both came down to 0. Yeah. I mean, right. Okay. Let's address that too. Is too big. Okay. I think we get to go write a test just for. Oh, I do want to keep this. Should we do this way? And these tests are very, very similar, except for those initial condition ones. Let's. All right. Let's. Do we want to split these? I think that's the right thing to do. I don't mind some tests that are specific to box pleat or knife pleat, but I think we need just some pleat designer tests. And I think it should contain anything that's identical between these two. Oops. Okay. Well, this one talks about gap. Pleat width. Total fabric. Well, I'm okay with, let's see. Designer needs required values, true. Yeah, that's good. Ideal hip, adjusted hip. Hip was adjusted. Pleat fabric, pleat count, pleat width, total fabric. I guess this is the only one that's not in both, or not over here. So I think this test is the better test. And we'll put that in here. So any test that's not, any test that's duplicated between these two can automatically go over there. Any test we can make duplicated can go. Pleat fabric is missing, then output variables are nil. Yep, that's the same. And I guess just to get things kicked off, we'll make a box pleat. And we did copy tests when we did these, so I think that's going to reflect that. Output variables are nil. Oh, well, this one doesn't need to care about gap, but okay. Get pleat count when predecessor value is present. Now this may be a little different. Pleat width comes out 1, comes out 2, okay. Count width or set when fabric are set. Pleat fabric updates, pleat width gap and pleat. Okay. Hip and fabric. Okay, that's a little specific to the pleat type, I think. Sets per pleat. Oh, that sounds the same. Oh, these are different. Okay. Sets per pleat updates. With set nil. No. Well, this is about gaps, so that's definitely not relevant. That's gap. Okay, I'll take that. All right, let's make sure all those run. And the count went down a little because we had a few tests that were in both places. Okay. Okay. So now, knife pleat designer tests. Well, I think that one's ready to... Let's see. Where did I leave off? Hip greater than 0. Yes. Well, I guess what I want to say is if if hip is equal to 0 or less than or equal to 0, it's got to be greater than if it's going to be needed. Or we need it if it's less than or equal. Okay. Plane designer test. Needs required values. You know, I kind of actually like assert equals better for this. Okay, this should fail. Okay. And we're going to say, or ideal hip is less than or equal to 0. As double. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is even you might have a small doll kilt or something that would be pretty small. It's unusual. I don't think it's a mistake people will make really, and they may want it in some cases. All right. So if this is 0, must be positive, and these are not activated. Okay. But if it's 0.5, well, something's going on here. Result too large. I mean, maybe it's less than 1. Yeah, I think it is. Right, so you can't set it to less than 3, which I think is probably realistic even for Barbie. And I don't know, she probably has a 2-inch hip. If the pleats would have to be I don't know, that's awful small. 5. I mean, you wouldn't do anything with a set of 6. I mean, at most 3 inches. Yeah, I may lose the Barbie Kilt calculator market. Let's make that less than 1. Test. Okay, so this should fail. Well, I guess I've got to do both sides of it. Oh, ran 0 tests. There we go. And that should pass. And then I think I'll put the flip side test. I'll say big enough. And this should pass. And we're confirming that we didn't put a 2 instead of a 1 or something. Okay. Enforce plate count greater than 0. Well, I think that's kind of in equations. Well, what if somebody types a 0? Oh, they can't. We restricted them. I think we're okay then. Should we make a type? Pleat validator knows. No, I don't want to break out these. Yeah, I think I'll let that one go. Double formatter. Oh boy. All right, well, I think we're to the point of addressing this line. If we take knife pleat, well, that's pretty darned ugly. They should all be the same. I don't know whether or not they should all. I don't know if this one needs to change or not. I mean, a knife pleat's sort of a knife pleat. The thing we might add is the depth. I lost that one. Oh, show depth dimension line. Yeah, and I think maybe keep pleat shape constant. Okay. But I think we could draw a line from here to the first peak and call that the depth. It won't be proportional. That's the only funny thing. But on the other hand, it won't. It would be very rare. The range of it is not that big. If the minimum is probably 1, and the maximum is probably 3.5 or something like that. Even that might be a little big. But it would be nice to say what the depth is. Okay, let's take a break. But I think we've recovered from all the missed decisions yesterday on trying to set that observable stuff. It does seem pretty good. I guess the other thing I saw in here, and you mentioned this the other day too, about these little subviews. They're big enough on their own that they might belong in a new class or something like that. At least I can definitely see it as plausible. All right, so 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll come back and tackle this pleat view, and then we'll do some cleanup in the view here, and then I think we'll just well, I don't know how much time we have for it. Gosh, I don't know. I still like this idea of a double formatter that might make some of this stuff go away. Also, I did have a request. Right now we have display inches or yards, feet, inches, but there are times when she really needs to know the decimal number of the value. So we probably have another thing. And I don't know, this one, like that seems, it would speed us up testing, and it just seems like what you'd want. Okay. Lots of these little ideas. All right, but we'll get these two first, and then extract subviews as separate views, and then we'll decide what to do on these. But I think at some point, maybe before we start apron pleat, we'll just knock off some of these old things that are showing up. Yeah. Okay. I think even these EG test things might be worth some time, and some of this too. All right, 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll tackle it from there. Welcome back. All right. Okay, are we checked in? Yes, okay. Good. So depth dimension line, and I think also straighten out that picture. Okay. We can close this. We can close everything to the right. All right. Now this should have a picture. Good. All right, so the pleat drawing, I don't know, where's pleat pixels coming in? That is not what I thought it was. Matter of fact, I renamed it Pleat Pixels the other day, but apparently it's something else. Knife pleat shape. Pleat. Well, let's just put 100 for now. And then this should be a width of 100. Well, let's say this equals 100. Okay, that looks all right. And oh, that's doing knife pleat drawing. Well, that's not doing anything, is it? No. I'm gonna change this. Yeah, the collars. The irony is 150 looks better. All right. I like it. All right. Now, dimension line. Well, I don't want this one stacked to the center. Dimension line. I need another dimension line. Color, all that stuff. Okay. How do I stack these? Do I need another stack? I want these three things, the first three, centered, but I want this one not centered. Do I need that stupid proxy width? Let's see how we did the box plate drawing. Now those are all centered. Whoops. Doesn't that look... It must be an illusion, but it doesn't look level. I guess it's probably just sitting in. But there's no guarantee that 125 is the right number, so... Is it geometry reader? Okay, so this should be geometry dot size dot width by 2, puts me in the middle. Okay. This is the middle minus pleat pixels /2. And then the text is depth. Okay, and then that can be followed by a pleat depth calculation, I guess. But I think that's the look I want. It's just so funny that it just looks skewed. Optical illusion. So depth is if you take the pleat fabric minus the pleat, then you have the part that's folded in half. So it's basically half of pleat fabric minus pleat width. Okay, so we're gonna look at the knife pleat. 620. Oh no. Why is my frame? Well, the height has to be the height of this. Oh, he should have had a height. It must be the geometry thing is not. Well, I guess it's got to be either that or this. I can probably squeak it down a little. I don't really know why I have to do that. Let's take this out and this out. Okay, so it is the geometry reader that's probably doing it. Okay. Now there's a gray line there, which I guess is coming from being in different fields. Yeah, okay. Now there, the gap, it's putting it in there. Let's look at how that does it. Okay. I think we must be passing it in, right? Yeah. Gap ratio, gap text. Okay. Well, let's do it similarly here. Okay, no problem there. Oh, right, we're not using it. Oh, it's unlabeled up there, but not down here. Okay. Okay, I think I'll take that word pleat out then, since we already have width. No, it'll look like that. Okay. The depth text, we're going to have to provide that. All right, so I think what we have is we've got the draw the knife pleat with a constant width, added dimension lines and text for depth. The tip should be the distance as the pleat width. No, at least if I understand what you're saying. So imagine if I've got my 6-inch set. If I did a pleat width of 4 inches, right? I've got 2 inches left over here, so the pleat width here will be 1 inch. If I did a pleat width of 1 inch, then I have 5 inches left, so these will be 2.5 inches deep. So the depth and the pleat width have a relationship, but they're not equal or anything like that. the tips here on top will be the same distance apart because they're reflecting the pleat width. Does that make sense, or are you asking something else? Okay. Now let's integrate that in to the pleat view. And we'll just make this no longer optional. Well, what's the right way to get this thing? Let's imagine that. And designer has no depth. All right, I guess I should comment this out first. All right, we'll do that. Okay. 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 I guess he's got to be a value. Well. Okay, we're going to take pleat fabric minus pleat width is double. Okay. Not to do 2.0? No. All right, I think this will make that test pass. We'll test both sides of it. Dip showing the length of the shorter of the knife lines. It's showing the amount tucked behind. Yeah, okay. I guess let me make this pass and then I'll come back to it. If pleat fabric is nil or pleat width is so I think of depth as being if you stuck your finger, in the left hand of the pleat underneath it, like how deep would your finger go underneath? Okay. So it's whatever, the whole set is this plus that, which is the pleat. So the pleat width comes off the set times fabric, and then whatever's left divides by 2. That's how deep you'll be able to stick your finger in. Same as a shorter line. Yeah, I mean it's kind of the distance. I almost think my left hand padding is not helping there, but it's kind of the distance from the bottom of this point to the top of the point on the left. Okay. Let's fix that. Well, okay, first we've added depth. Okay, and then the knife plate drawing. Oh, I was gonna say, do I need those words? But I guess I do. But the padding leading Yeah. What's funny is these drawings have that acute point, and it kind of sticks out past where you'd expect, is my experience with it, honestly. So the actual point where these two lines meet is considered to be a little bit before the tip, and that's why the depth is sort of showing that. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's just kind of a characteristic of the drawing stuff. And I do think this width is a little, it's still a little big. Let's push this back to 125. I might make this 10. A little better. Okay. The placement isn't, I don't need it to be exact. I just need it to be somewhat under this dimension line. Okay. All right, and this is not showing up, which it needs to in pleat view, right? That's hard coded, but this should be like our width. Well, it's even more like our gap. Gap message. Well, it's kind of format optional. Designer.depth. Oh, we got a double. We had another one. Where did that go? Is that on box pleat? No. Well, let's make this thing return a double just to make that easier on us. Depth of double. Unnecessary. Okay, and that That does seem a little tall now. Oh, they put a little padding on top. That seems like we should match that. Oh, padding on the whole thing. Okay. Yeah, that's better. I think I'll move this down 4 pixels though. Never satisfied. Padding top. 8. Okay, and then let's run it and check the calculations. Okay, so with a 6-inch pleat, we got 6 inches, 2 inches down, 2 inches to there. So it's right. But if I do 1, it should be 2.5. Okay. And that actually does look like it's over too far, doesn't it? Let's take that off. I think it does need something. Back to 8. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Okay, so display the depth, tweak, knife, pleat, drawing. Okay. Now, it may be this pleat designer thing may be overkill too. It's hard to know. Oh, what was the other thing? Another question came up. This is maybe more of a calculator thing, but how much is a skosh or skosh? If something is 6 plus, it could be 6 up to, but not including 6 plus 1. I think 16. Let's say 6/8. 6/8 plus could be 6/8 up to 6/8 plus. Well, if it was a 6 18th, it would be 13/16. So it's got to be a difference of a 32nd. Okay. But if it, and this came up in a real situation, but if it's 6/8 is 0.750001, we call it 6/8 plus, which is misleading because you can't deal with that small of a bit, right? It's it's smaller than a thread width. And the question is, like, where on that number line do you stop calling it a 6/8 and start calling it a 6/8 plus? And then when you get to a 32nd, it's sort of right in the middle between a plus and a 7/8 minus. And like, when do you call it a minus? So those, that created a real problem for my wife on this kilt she's working on. Because she had someone who's kind of beanpole shaped, although he's a large beanpole, but so his waist and hip were basically the same. And so she decided she would make the waist a little smaller, like do 6/8 minus, and do the hip a little bigger, doing 13/8. I'm sorry, the hip 6/8 plus and the waist 13/8 minus, which is the 13/16 minus. So if you treat them both as being a 32nd, then you end up in the middle and they end up the same size, when she really wanted them to come out hip an inch bigger. It just looks, yeah. So I don't know, you like, should I do through a 64th is the same as 70, as the plain number? I need to, well, we're going to have to figure that out. I think it's plausible to do to a 64th. I think it's a little weird if you get, the closer you get to a 32nd, it's just kind of like, wow, that's kind of a tough call. But yes, there's some number, and I don't know if it's, we'll have to do some drawing and figure out what's right. Also, I have to get the book that she uses and see if they discussed it at any length, and maybe they can give us a kind of concrete answer. But like, at some point they talk about being a thread more, so I don't know how many threads per inch in an average tartan or anything like that. I don't think it's any 2,000 in thread per inch sheet or anything like that, but it's not, I forget what you call sackcloth or something. So that's one we need to address, because that definitely affected her. That the one of them really should have been more like 6/8, or yeah, I think the one should have been more like 6/8 and the other should have been more like 13/16 minus. Okay. All right. So we got half an hour. Let's deal with these subviews, and I think that'll wrap up knife pleats for now, at least till really users start looking at it. All right, pleat view, and we can close tabs to the right, and I think we can close this too. Well, for that matter, we won't need that. All right, so here's tartan view, and it's controlling, well, it's got to get this variable to it. So it's going to need tartan, and it's going to need slash, and it's going to need focused field. And that's probably it. Now, I could almost see pulling this up. Actually, I could see pulling this up. Let's go to tartan view. to the call and pull that up here. So I'm going to try and get these on changes, at least the global impact ones, more visible at global level. Okay, so pleat count view, a picker. And a pleat shape. Okay, I can kind of live with that one. I guess I can live with that one. I almost should inline this, but it's kind of parallel. All right. Maybe this should go inside. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so tartan view we can pull out if we have tartan slash focused field. He's got to reference those. Tartan, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, which is good. I mean, the focus field gets in the way. I don't have a good way around it. And slash also is kind of too bad. But it's some. All right, let's start taking out. Okay, so we'll make a new view. The body is that. Now I need some variables. Binding to tartan. Binding to slash is pressed. Well, that's the thing. Now, where did it put tartan view? Oh, that's kind of an awkward place. Okay. Format fraction. All right, these things. Well, I think we can pull this out too. Format fraction. For now, let's pull it out. So this is new class, or new file. Okay, so double dot. So value think this goes like this, and then value becomes self. Unless we make it a var. Okay. So tartan view could call format fraction. Okay. I don't know why at private level missing arguments. Let's fix that. Okay. I think we can do constant. Focused field, let's just do nil. Oh, he should be focus. No. Focus binding. Well, this is harder than I thought. Focus state. Value type binding of value. Focus that too. Do we pass the focus state anywhere else? I don't think I've used this on other projects, so I'm a little unclear. Oops, I saw it. How to pass. It's working without passing down the state. It's inherited automatically. Pass dollar focus. Oh, just a var of binding, right. We did see this somewhere. Focus state of, yeah. Focus state of pleat view focus. All right, and then cannot find format fraction. Oh, yeah. It's just a binding now. Oh, wait, I'm screwing this thing up. That's what I want on the other one, not here. Focus state plate view, focus question mark dot binding. And then here. I'm hoping. Do I have to go underneath it? So that's not quite working the same. They're checking it, but they're not setting it. Thank you. Focus.wrap value. And focus state. And checked as a binding. No, like I guess I could use it, huh? Instance member dollar focus. Oh, static. Barely not. Initializer is inaccessible due to private protection level. I think that's these. Okay. Somebody else is complaining. Who else has problems? Can I find value? Sure. Oh, I did cut it out completely. Okay. Well, all right. Oh, yeah. It seems a little weird. I mean, it seems like you should just be able to say focus state anywhere and get to whatever the current state is. But I may, like I said, I haven't used it before this project, so. All right, so we've extracted tartan view. Tartan view. Let's get that other format taken care of. Pleat view, format optional. And I think it's the same kind of deal. Oh, double question mark. Yeah, this one's maybe a little trickier. Maybe that shouldn't come out of here. Okay. Oh, tartan view here, but we need to call it. Now, is it just tartan? Titan. Do I have to pass the individual ones? Or maybe I pass the object. What's... Oh, he's not a binding. He's an observed object. No, he should be unhappy. Failed to build. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right. And then we'll run it and just make sure nothing got lost in translation there. Okay, that looks good. Well, I definitely like what that does to pleat view. I can spread these out. All right, make tartan view. Okay. Well, I guess the other thing I wanted to do was say box plate drawing. Let's just give it the gap message as well as the drawing itself, because it's already got the information it needs. Alignment center. Oh, gap. Oh, we don't have a gap. Okay, I take that back. All right, well, I think we'll put that in for tomorrow first thing. Move gap analysis to box pleat drawing. He's got everything else. He could probably just get the gap and do it, but I can't do it in a minute. All right, and then I think at that point I'll be satisfied enough. This will inline these two methods. I guess I could mention that here. Okay, but I think we're to a good point. This has been a pretty good sized feature, and I think there's things I know now that I could have done it faster. Certainly could have skipped the trouble yesterday, and could have skipped we created a pleat designer, then we duplicated it to get knife pleat designer, and then we folded it back in. So it turns out that was mostly unnecessary. It might have been interesting to identify that. I think the problem was that at one point, the way I understood the equations for knife pleats, they just totally didn't match up to the way it worked for regular pleats. And that was probably just too much. It's still a little funny. Box pleat design knows stuff for both kinds of pleats. If there were more kinds of pleats, I'd be a little hesitant about that, but we'll live with it. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Yeah, exactly. Lots of hindsight in this. Thanks for joining today. It's 2 to 4:30 Eastern time tomorrow and 6 to 8:30 p.m. UTC. And I'll catch you then or some other time, I hope. Take care. Good night.